Whereas these brothers are struggling.
Apple. Apple
Oh, God.
says that its announcement of automated tools to detect child sexual abuse on the iPhone and iPad was miscommunicated.
I'm
Pretty
sorry.
badly.
Sorry.
Week and a half ago, Apple revealed that they were going to have new image detection software that can alert Apple if known illegal images were uploaded to its iCloud storage. Creepy. Privacy groups criticized the news, with some saying Apple had created a security backdoor in its software. The company says its announcement has been widely misunderstood. We wish this had come out a little bit more clearly for everybody, said Apple software chief Craig Federighi. Apple announced 2 new tools designed to protect children. They will be deployed in the US first. The first one is image detection. The first tool can identify known child sex abuse material when a user uploads photos to iCloud storage. Message filtering. In addition to the iCloud tool, Apple are also announcing a parental control that users could activate on their children's accounts. If activated, the system would check photographs sent by or to the child over Apple's iMessage app. If the machine learning system judged that a photo contained nudity, it would obscure the photo and warn the child. Parents can also choose to receive an alert if the child chooses to view the photo. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, I've totally missed this story, completely ignorant to it. I've not really seen anything about it. And I guess you could make the case, it'd be very weird if you did. You could make the case where this is all turning into Black Mirror.
Yep.
And this is private companies who are infringing on the role of the state and our personal privacy and whatever. But really,
Sounds like you don't believe it.
But really, I mean, like, what's the case of the defense if you've got fucking child porn on your phone? I don't give a shit.
But what's the difference between child porn in your phone versus a child of your own in the bath with you?
Okay, fine. I don't think that if you get taken to court for having a photo of your kid in the bath, that you're going to get prosecuted.
Right, so
it's a false equivalence.
I'll give you some colour on the story, yeah? So,
He's got back in the
No,
seat.
no,
He's
no,
ready.
just
to
hey,
say, so
Olga has entered the chat.
Yeah.
No, just because there are
Correct.
like we can shoot Apple some bail on this, even though I don't want to, right? And everything that Johnny was
Android
saying
baby.
in a sarcastic tone of yeah. That's all serious concerns, like of your privacy and rah. It's difficult to argue against child abuse, obviously.
Of course.
So that's why you start there, right? Because no one's going to be like, yeah. People should have child abuse images on their phone.
Yeah.
You can't have that argument, right? So you start there, and then before then, it's going to be like other illegal acts. Oh, why have you got pictures of drugs on your phone? Or why is there a picture of a shank, etc., etc.? So the argument is the road of direction. But anyway, to go back to the point about the naked picture of you and your kid in a bath or rah. The argument that they make is that there's already a database, basically, of known child sexual images, right?
Yep.
Millions and millions of images that have been stored by global police forces, basically, over many, many years. And those images are turned into some form of what they call a fingerprint, basically. So it's not actually an image, it's just a series of lines or some shit like that. And then they argue that what they're doing is they're taking every image on your iPhone and then turning that into a fingerprint and then matching fingerprint to fingerprint.
Okay.
Right? So the argument of like, me and my daughter in the shower, or me and my son, like whatever, I'm changing my kid and someone took a picture.
Yeah.
So what happens is all of those are nullified because none of those images will be on the database of sexual sexual abuse that the police have put together. So there's no way you can get flagged, is Apple's argument.
Yep.
So Apple's argument is if you've taken a picture of you and your kid and the kid is maybe semi-naked or whatever and it's on your personal phone, then there's no way you can get flagged because that's not going to match a database of blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Whereas people are arguing, I'm not comfortable with even Apple accessing this information and looking at these images, right? To which they retort, well, we're not looking at an image, we're looking at a fingerprint, basically. It's not really the actual image.
Right.
Yeah.
But it all comes back down to who has the rights to this picture that I've just taken.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Right. And their pushback on that I'm sorry message is also partly I'm sorry, but partly also Facebook and blah blah blah, they've all been doing this for a while. Everyone does image checks against this registry, rah rah rah. So that's their argument. We're not the only ones, but they're the ones that have probably the most dominant market position, and that's why people are like, well, if Apple say it's cool and they're going to work with the US government to do this, then the US government would then turn around tomorrow and force all other companies to work with them in various other ways.
It is quite interesting though, because we are entering a place. We had this conversation about whether or not social media platforms should do more to curb racial abuse that happens online. And, you know, we obviously went back and forth on the role of the companies. It's becoming more and more apparent that the companies are becoming the government with regards to the steps that are being taken to right some of the many wrongs that are happening in society.
Yeah,
Isn't it? Like the companies are essentially going where the government doesn't see, even though you said in collaboration with the government, it would appear that the companies actually do play a huge part in righting some of these societal wrongs, whether we like it or not. We're at that point now, right?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't new though, right? If you look at the vast majority of what is America's intelligence and defense infrastructure, it's run by Amazon. America's logistics infrastructure is Amazon. So these moves have been happening for years and years and years. I just don't particularly think that I don't think this is an egregious case. I understand that there is risk of overreach. There's risk of policy reach if you instigate this, but I'm more than willing to let this one run, especially if the model you describe about not actually looking at photos and running fingerprint
That's why I
matching.
said we should shoot them bail. Like we have to report it fairly. It'd be jokes to be like, fuck Apple, they're fucking us.
And there's plenty of shit that Apple do that is awful. You know, if Apple paid their fucking tax appropriately, there'd be a lot more resource to hunt pedophiles in countries all around the world.
Big facts.
And that's not great. However, am I gonna ping them for using their technological advantage to find nonces? No, I'm probably comfortable with this.
It's all fun and games until one of your nudes ends up pinging you back as an alert because it's on this police database.
If I take a nude and Apple deems my dick so small that it's deemed as child porn, I've got greater issues than personal privacy.
Join your boys in the inceleb or whatever.
Incel.
What are they called?
Incel white boy summer mashup party.
I said celeb because of the celibacy.
Yeah. Makes sense. Inceleb sounds disgusting.
Involuntary
It sounds much worse, doesn't it?
Inceleb.
Involuntary celebrity or some shit. Anyway,
So you're for it. You are for this.
I'm for stopping nonsense. Yeah, that's what's up.
100%.
It's not a particularly revolutionary take, but it seems like this seems like something that can fairly easily be done. The fingerprint model seems fairly fair. The vast majority, 99.999% of people are never going to get pinged. If you take a selfie and my picture isn't already on the database, then there's no ping, right? So I don't really give a shit. Run free.
Today, right? The issue is today. Right? Today, it all makes sense. Today, 100%. I find it difficult to argue against child porn, and today it makes sense that it's fingerprints and rah rah. If we believe and buy all the BS that we get told, but what's it going to be tomorrow? That's the issue, right?
Yeah, agreed.
And you're right. Big companies have always played a role, right? And we mentioned Amazon and blah, 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 but it's across all sectors: Boeing and Lockheed Martin and Halliburton and like various parts of the government.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that technology is used for these frameworks, just logistically and in terms of infrastructure. But my point was more some of the more pressing societal issues that we have: racism, child abuse, so on and so forth. An area which companies typically refrained from in the past getting involved with are now taking a charge in changing what you would argue the government has a responsibility in addressing first.
I think what we have to realize...
It should be government announcements using the technology of Apple as opposed to Apple saying we've got this technology in collaboration with...
The government can't mandate Apple to do that, right? But the flip side, well, not in the US anyway. In China, they could. But like in the US or somewhere like that, you can't. But the other thing that we have to bear in mind is these large US companies, maybe some large G7 companies or whatever, the scale at which they operate is larger than majority of countries around the world, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about how much cash on hand Apple has, just sitting in a bank account.
Apple could buy Greece
exactly easily,
with
probably
cash.
Twice over.
They could buy Greece with cash.
Yeah, the cash reserves that they're sitting on. Like if they were a country, would have them in the similar size to Poland. I remember reading a few years back, and that's a few years ago, right? So they operate on a different level. They don't think about things on a singular country level, right?
Yeah.
Well, they run like states. These mega corporations run like states.
Yeah.
Tim Cook and Jeff Bezos are presidents,
Presidents,
effectively,
basically,
and
yeah.
they oversee different departments of an internal government.
So they're not thinking about this on a single state level like US, UK. They're just looking at it from a global perspective. And the proof is in the pudding. Facebook have their own Supreme Court, right? They have a group of 15 or 20 or 30 people that they've hired, some of the most what's considered like, philosophical thinkers, elite man or whatever, various ex-presidents, foreign ministers. Nick Clegg sits on it, and various other people, right? So they are countries. Facebook is just as powerful as a let's say G20 country.
Yeah.
I'll say cynically that this move by Apple is business.
Do you agree or disagree with that? That's
Yeah, I
quite
agree with you.
controversial.
No, I agree with you.
You think Apple or Amazon or Facebook are more powerful than any non-G20 country?
Yeah, I do, because their lobbying abilities are way larger, right? I would say what this is for Apple.
Even without an army.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could just go fucking hire the guys that did the Haitian president.
Yeah,
right?
for real.
or
And
you
shout
just
out
force
Haiti,
the US
by the
government.
way.
Yeah.
You just tell the US government,
exactly.
hey,
Go invade them.
I've got interest here.
Well, what do you fucking think Iraq and Afghanistan were
That's what I'm
about?
saying.
Yeah.
Shout out Haiti, by
shout
the way.
out
man.
Haiti,
Another
yeah, big
bloody
time, another
earthquake.
earthquake.
Yeah,
Jesus
awful.
Christ, they're going for it.
To wrap this up, I think basically this is business by Apple. This is business. This is PR work. It's good for PR.
It's not good for PR. It's been terrible. That's why they've had to release a second "I'm sorry" statement.
Yeah, I think eventually it will turn out for the better. They're trying to do they're trying to do a social good, even if they've messed up in the execution. But it's business.
Yeah.
It's business.
But even that social goods bullshit, because they baited themselves. Because at the end they were like, "Well, Facebook and these men already do
Yeah,
it."
fine.
So then you're like, "Well, then it's not social good. You're coming to the party late. So why is Google and Facebook 5 years ahead of you?"
In keeping with everything we've just said, these companies, like you said, run like superstates. They are laws unto their own. Their lobbying capability is infinite, and if Apple paid their taxes, then law enforcement would be sufficiently funded elsewhere around the world. They're doing this for business. They think they can make money out of it. So good that they're catching nonsense, but let's not pretend that Apple's a charity.
So less dick pics into iClouds is the conclusion.
Just make sure you got a big enough dick to not be caught as a child, and then
and
you'll
that
be
too.
all right.
Yeah.